All right, welcome everybody to the 401 Jake Show. I am super pumped today because there's some big news in the 401k space, but more importantly, it's busy season, right? Labor Day's over. Let's get into it. And we've got the one and only Scott Buffington. I hope most of you have heard of him. If you haven't, you're going to want to get to know Scott and what he's doing. He's got so many years of experience and he's doing something really unique to help us as advisors. And I can't wait to hear more from Scott. I've spent some time with him last week looking at what he's doing right now, and I want to just share it with everybody because I think it can help you in your practice. So Scott, give us a quick summary of how you ended up in this 401k world. It's interesting because it looks like you started right out of college in 401ks. So I want to hear kind of how that all happened and where you are now.
You got it. And thanks, Jake, for having me on. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I've been in this business now for 27 years, which is kind of crazy to think that.
That's a long time.
Fresh out of college in 1993 or 92 and jumped in this business in 93. My sister-in-law, who's an advisor in this business and worked for Prudential for a long time, actually wanted to help me get a real job. And I started off at Cigna Retirement Services, which later sold to Prudential. And I started off keying enrollment forms, processing contributions, and running distributions. And was about as early in the career stage in retirement services as you can get. And just had a passion and just fell in love with this business and working with advisors and different plan sponsors out there that really needed the help when it came to saving or helping their participants save for retirement. And at 27 years, I'm still kicking and still in the business.
Amazing. Yeah. It sounds like you've seen a lot of different things. You've seen a lot of change.
Yes.
I've been probably close to a little over half of that, but not all in the 401k space. So I'm excited to hear because there's been some changes in the industry, even just the short 6 years I've been all the way in this industry. And I think there's a lot of advisors that are still trying to get their feet under them, right? They still kind of dabble and they treat 401ks as like a little piece of their business. And some are specialists. So you've got a variety of people. But more importantly, I think what I'd like to hear about is you spend a lot of time in the wholesaling side, right? With
Sure.
MassMutual as helping advisors use, your product. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts kind of specific to wholesalers first of all, because I think we have a lot of people listening that are in that wholesaling side. And I think the more that we understand each other from an advisor, a client facing person, and where the wholesaler can really add a lot of value, I think if we can bring that to get that connection together stronger, we're going to get better as an industry. So I'd love to hear some of your experiences as in that space, and then we can dive into what you're doing now.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I started off my career after Cigna, about 13 years at Putnam Investments, which was acquired by Great West / Empower.
That's right.
And then left there and went over to MassMutual and then ran national sales at MassMutual for a while there and had about 100 salespeople, 10 sales managers. We had the largest advisor sold distribution force in the country. But what I've really seen from a wholesaler standpoint across the country is that the process of wholesaling really hasn't evolved that much. I mean, you think of a wholesaler 10 years ago versus now, they may be tasked with doing 80 to 100 meetings a month with the goal of getting 15 to 20 non-startup proposals, calling on advisors, trying to add value. And that still exists today. And that's a very expensive model when you think of how hard you have to work to get in front of advisors that often, try to add value. Maybe you're helping them with prospecting. And especially when you're talking about a generalist advisor that might primarily focus in the smaller end of the market, you're not only forming that relationship, but you're teaching them about the business and you're teaching them about 401ks. So it really hasn't evolved that much. I mean, I think wholesalers will come up with something new. It used to be planned health and then participant outcomes and holistic benefits. And we'll all have our new thing that we're talking about, and technology enables us to kind of deliver on that. But, I still believe that 401k plans are sold, not bought. You still need resources. You still need to have that relationship with that advisor and work with that advisor. And you still need the other very important roles that take place within a retirement plan sale, especially on the smaller market, where you might be working with a TPA and you may be working with other professionals that that the plan sponsor relies on. So, I mean, it really hasn't, it's kind of funny when you look at other voluntary benefits, it has gone online and you see a lot of, they've gotten digital. And if you're a small business owner and you are looking for a new healthcare provider, or you're looking for different voluntary benefits that are out there, technology is assisted with distribution. Retirement plans, we've been really behind the scenes when it comes to that. And again, you need those resources pounding down doors. So, for 401kplans.com, one of the reasons why that I took the leap to develop this application is to try to be able to use digital capabilities that are available with other voluntary benefits and try to increase distribution for retirement plan providers and make the life of advisors easier. So we could all be a little more efficient as we're all really squeezed for margin.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's where you are now. So you're the founder and CEO of 401kplans.com. Great idea. I think getting that website URL, I'm sure was a challenge. That's a great one.
It wasn't cheap.
But I think honestly, that was probably one of the biggest pain points for me when I jumped in all the way. I was with a benefits firm and I jumped in 100% 401k. I wasn't doing any individual business. I wasn't doing anything else but 401k plans. The biggest pain point, and still honestly, probably one of the biggest it takes most of my time, is proposals, right? And that is a huge part of what we do in the 401k industry, not only on the advisor side, but the wholesalers. I mean, I can't tell you how many often I'm bugging a wholesaler for pricing and questioning this, and can you do that? And just going back and forth. And the education piece, you're totally right. Wholesalers are in a position of education and a level of trust that an advisor will do what they say almost blindly at times because they're busy finding relationships, right? And that's where the wholesaler can add a ton of value, is if they're really in it for the long game to help that advisor no matter what. But yeah, that proposal is a real friction point, in my opinion, for most people, large firms, small firms, all of them. And so how did you come up with this idea? How did you formulate it? How did it all come together where you're like, all right, let's do this. Let's go for it. That's a big jump.
Yeah. So when I was at MassMutual, prior to the acquisition of the Hartford's retirement business, I had around 35 wholesalers or so, and we were really focused on that mid to large market. And we would certainly do small market, but it was with advisors that were specialists. We really didn't work with many generalist advisors. When we acquired the Hartford, I took on an additional 60 some odd wholesalers, and their primary focus was on that smaller market, and they did most of their business with generalist advisors. So people who are really focused on the high net worth clients and not necessarily an expert in retirement. And to be candid, I was frightened. I was just absolutely frightened that a plan sponsor may hire the person who manages their personal money to do the retirement plan if they didn't understand the retirement plan, if they didn't have a process, if they didn't have technology, if they because in a way that could be increasing the fiduciary risk on the plan sponsor, where you're paying and compensating plan assets for somebody who may not know what they're doing, or truly getting you the best deal that you possibly can. On the flip side of that, when you're working with specialist advisors who know what they're doing, do they have the capacity to work down market? Can they take on that many clients that are 3 million, 5 million, when it's still the same amount of heavy lifting, but to be able to kind of broaden the distribution of their capabilities, take on more clients, automate what they do, if it's 338, if it's the providers they like, the certain services that are offered for different products, and be able to broadly distribute their capabilities over more smaller clients. That was really missing. How do you help an advisor do that? So when I left MassMutual, I hired a development team. It's an idea I had in my mind for quite a while. And the goal was to create that automated documented fiduciary due diligence process. We work with the Wagner Law Group to get an opinion letter that every plan has their own unique facts and circumstances. Yeah. But by following the 401kplans.com process, you could be complying with your obligations as a fiduciary under ERISA. So really that's to help that generalist advisor so they have a documented process that they could follow. It's a consistent process, fully transparent from a fees perspective, an apples to apples comparison with other providers. You know, if one's bidding like fund mapping and the other one's target date and active or passive, and try to really create that easy to understand comparison. But then we've also launched tools for that specialist advisor like yourself and other advisors that are out there, where you could broadly distribute your 338 capabilities. We have features on our application that can help you from prospecting and benchmarking and marketing your services out there, so that it's easy for you to be able to do proposals and create an analysis and give industry type data, because you really can't afford to spend 10 to 20 hours of your precious time on a $3 million plan. You know, so that was the thought process behind it. That's the goal of 401kplans.com, to basically create a process for a generalist advisors, but be able to really automate distribution of your capabilities as a specialist advisor as well.
I love it. It's so valuable because I think over the years, I've adapted that proposal process myself in a way that I make it pretty custom each and every time, which is so hard to be consistent and document. And that's the real key to being a fiduciary, is making sure that you do follow that process. And the variety of questions and the variety of ways that a plan sponsor will look at this whole decision-making process is so unique. I mean,
Right.
I see more smaller plans that have a better, I wouldn't say better, but a more in-depth RFP kind of process than maybe the larger ones. And I'm in a kind of physician niche, so it's a little bit different. So yeah, what you're doing, I think, is really, really valuable. I know it's, if an advisor can understand that value early on, and for me, I think what was interesting is I was super hungry for years, and I would chase every single possible option, right? It was just like, oh, someone wants a plan. I don't care if it's a startup or what. Like, I had 40 different benefit brokers selling for me, and it was just a nightmare. And it was just proposal after proposal, and it was just like spitting them out, right? And so I had to figure out how to scale that, but I didn't have a development team to do that. So it was pretty much, it's a sweet looking Google sheet. So yeah, I was really excited to kind of, when I saw what you were doing, I spent a little time on it, and we spent a little more time last week. So I'm actually going to dive deeper, and I think most advisors really should. But on the flip side of that, I want to also kind of bring up the value that a wholesaler can feel from this, because not only when you put in a request in your system, it sends, you can actually send it to the wholesaling team, right? Of whichever record keepers you want, or some you're actually recommending. Is that
correct?
Accurate?
Yeah, we're like, I joke around and say we're like Match.com for 401k providers. You know, we're not sending out a questionnaire. We're not sending out an RFP where somebody answers questions. What we've done is we've taken 30 different, it could be a resource, a feature, a capability, kind of the most common that is requested by advisors, and you can check off what's important to you and what's important to your client. And then the providers have their own portal where they tell us, based on plan size or service model, if they can offer that service or capability or resource that you're looking for. So not only can the advisor handpick providers that they'd like to receive a proposal, but we'll also proactively match you with providers that are the best fit based on what you said was important to your client and the priority that you gave that capability, service, or resource. You know, it's just a recommendation based on, and it's just an algorithm behind the scenes, and you can agree and include that provider, or you can press a button and exclude that provider and pick somebody else if you like. But the cool thing behind that too is providers can give us their wholesaler information into our system in the portal that they have. And we could put all internal and external wholesalers on our system and establish accounts for them. So even if an internal covers multiple wholesalers, I mean, external wholesalers, we've been able to accommodate that. If wholesalers split states, then all you got to do is we have a Google map tool where you draw your territory, we extract the zip codes, and we attach the zip codes to the wholesaler's territory and then match it to where the advisor resides. so that we know exactly where that where that advisor's proposal should go. So if it's an external, an internal, or both. So the cool thing about it is if you're a wholesaler, and I'll use my old firm as an example, who made some news this morning, but if you're a Mass Mutual wholesaler and we have all their internal and external wholesalers on our system, you get a notification on your smartphone of a proposal. You could log into our app and you could view the proposal. You can view information about the advisor, see the fund lineup. Is there a mapping strategy? Are we doing like fund mapping? Are we doing a target date re-enroll? And we can calculate your price for you based on the rules that we have from your pricing model and give you an instant price. And that's something that's truly unique about our application. Or you can custom price it right on your phone. And once you press submit, it would send you, the advisor, an email letting you know, in this case, Mass Mutual submitted their custom price. You could view it, accept it, and the system's updated real time. And you could update the due diligence document that is also fully customized for you. And everything's up to date on the new price that was just submitted on an iPhone 30 seconds earlier. So it's all digital. It's really cool. And, you don't have to wait anymore for the wholesaler to get back to their office and be able to submit something online and update a proposal and send you a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet. And then you pull it out and then you update your spreadsheets. It's all digital now, point and click on a smartphone.
See, that's amazing to me because so early in my career, before I jumped in to be an advisor, I was wholesaling mortgages. So yep. I understand very well that pain of I had a loan officer come to me and say, "Hey, I got this deal. Can you give me rates?" Same concept, right? This is back in the BlackBerry days, and I was like typing out all these quick messages. I'd pull the price sheet and like send them out. And I can imagine that's got to be one of the most frustrating scenarios for a lot of wholesalers' wives or spouses or whoever the wholesaler is. When they get a request, they're like, jump right on it, get the price out. They have to figure it all out. And there's, they have their algorithms and their calculators, or, it's not so cut and dry as I would hope it is, but it sounds like you're getting closer to having that. You can, with some instances, like have pricing right away, which 21 is so valuable.
Yeah. And we're about to add hopefully a major, another major provider, but 21 out of the 24 record keepers on our system, we have pricing embedded into the application. And to give you some examples, like Fidelity, we have their pricing embedded into the application for plans up to 5 million. Mass Mutual's the same thing. And then you have other providers where it's much higher. You have a few where it's a little lower than that. And there's a couple who want to custom price every size plan. But even if they want to custom price the plan, you still use our application. There's just one additional step. Maybe that wholesaler wants to look at the fund lineup. Maybe there's an asset capture strategy. Maybe they want to see who the advisor is and if they have any preferred arrangements with that firm or products with that firm. And then they enter in their custom price into their smartphone or their desktop. So the advisor then receives it and can populate the system with their price. So even if someone custom prices, there's one additional step. You don't see the price first, and then it be the pencil being sharpened. So having that data at your fingertips to be able to get pricing for a $3 million plan, a $5 million plan with so many top record keepers at your fingertips, right on your smartphone, it's game changing. I mean, advisors tell us all the time, I don't have to wait all this time. I could literally get a price from these top record keepers instantaneously. And then everybody always says, why have we waited so long? Why has this taken so long? I could do this with every other voluntary benefit that's out there or other products that are out there. We're all used to this. We all have ADD. We want info. We want it now. So I love hearing that when people basically ask what's taken so long to get it.
I'm constantly that annoying advisor that's like, hey, I got a meeting in a couple hours. Can you give me pricing? And I try not to be, but that's just when you get an opportunity, you jump on it and you're like, I need to at least know where we are. So if they want to talk about that, I'm ready. Right. Sure. So I kind of have it dialed in, but to have it just like documented. And also on the flip side, I'm thinking I get in trouble a lot with the census because I sometimes don't even tell them I ran a proposal because I can get their pricing. It's flat, right? It's per head.
Sure.
And they get mad at me because I don't tell, they don't get credit as wholesalers. And so this process, they would get that credit.
That's right.
It would be already spit out in a nice format. So I don't have to go and mess around with my Google sheet. So you've got me super pumped to pull this into our process, but I'm even more excited too, because you're mentioning you're doing some more work on the TPA side, which
Yes.
is always it's always tough for me because each TPA has a different relationship. And because I work with a lot of cash balance plans, I'm constantly trying to remember what's the rev share, what's the transition amount, what's the amount I'm going to get ongoing, because I have to have it all mapped out. And sometimes that can win the case in a substantial way, because there's a lot of significant revenue sharing still going on with some of the big players out there. And so if I can explain that in a really clear way and they see that value, sometimes we come out ahead in the first couple of years.
Right.
But you have to know what it is. And that's the struggle, is if my wholesaler's in a meeting, I can't get that number. So tell me more about what you're doing in the TPA space so we can
Sure.
get that vision.
Yeah, and I think TPAs play such a critical role, especially in the smaller market, under 5 million, under 10 million, in that space. Having that local service person partnering with the advisor locally with the client is so important. So from a distribution standpoint as well, and also offering the TPA some tools, since we all want to play together really well. We want to get more efficient together, and also TPAs are being squeezed for margin as well. So in the very near future, we're going to begin our process of developing a TPA portal. And what that'll allow a TPA to do is, if they want to share how they price plans, and obviously there could be ERA, so it could be asset-based, there's flat per head fees, or there's per participant fees, they'll be able to create for free an account on our system and be able to provide their pricing methodology. We'll also allow them to select the different providers and different revenue sharing agreements that they have, so that we can net out whatever that net cost is to the client. So that when the advisor logs in, you have your favorite TPA that you want to use, you could select the TPA, and we'll be able to show the net pricing of the TPA, net of ERA if that exists, as well as the record keeping price if they have 316 services, maybe there's a separate 338 fee, whatever it may be. Everything is itemized in line item today. Now today, a TPA, we can take their pricing in, and we could put it into the application. The only thing we don't have today is ERA. I don't know that by record keeper, by TPA, but in the very near future, once we launch the TPA portal, we'll be able to capture that information.
Nice. See that?
Yes.
That's amazing. So TPAs, listen up. You need to get in touch with Scott. You need to get on the platform, because this is going to be super valuable. The more people that start using this, the more transparent we're going to get pricing for everybody, which honestly is still one of the bigger problems. Is when I come across the opportunity and ask them what they're paying, very, very few plan sponsors can actually answer that question. Yeah. And that to me is the most exciting part overall of what you're doing. Is not only helping us as salespeople, but it's helping the industry in a way that we can all understand who's getting paid to do what services and how how that happens.
Right.
And that's a massive problem that we've tried to solve with disclosures, but even then it's not very clear. So what you're doing is I think a much bigger picture than just the sales silo that we're kind of all focused on all the time. And that's really cool. Tell me, like, what's after that, after TPA, like it sounds like you've got quite a bit of ideas that you're continuing to add to. Where do you see this going, like in 5-10 years? What's the big, 4kplans.com, what's the limit? Where are we trying to go in the end?
I mean, the ultimate goal is that we are like the Bloomberg terminal, to use this analogy of 401k quotes. Okay. Instead of getting a security quote, and just take the manual processes, kind of what you're not really paid for, doing spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, just take that out of the mix so that you can really focus on growing your business, serving participants, serving clients, and the value that you're actually adding to them, and get away from the manual, tedious work. But ultimately, just to be able to, and our goal is that we're a portal. We're not selling product. If someone wants to put their 338 program on, if it's one of the large 338 providers that work with different record keepers, whatever it is, we're agnostic. And we just want to be able to allow people to put their products on our platform and be able to make the process more efficient for everyone involved. And that also has to do with the DCIOs of the world. as you know, DCIOs, a lot of their resources have been getting constrained, and those teams are getting smaller and smaller. And I think they play such a tremendous role with advisors and connecting with record keepers and their wholesalers as well. So we work with them as well, just for your information, where
Yeah.
they can
Yeah. Talk
give
about that.
yeah, they can give access to premium services that we have. So any advisor can sign up for an account for free on 401kplans.com, but we do offer a few services that they can pay for, and it's just things that make the process a little more efficient, a little more customized, and it's very reasonable. It's like $20 a month, so it's not going to break the bank for anyone. But we work today with Invesco and Pioneer, where an advisor, if they have a relationship with those firms, they can get a code where they can key in a code and they get premium services for free. We're going to continue to add to those premium services. But the goal here is that we can also track trades. As you know, investments are typically made, or it's frequent that they're in omnibus accounts, and you probably get wholesalers calling you all the time like, hey, you just funded $500,000 in my large cap growth fund, and can you send me an email on it so we can track it, because tracking trades and compensating wholesalers for their hard work is hard to do. So if you could finalize your fund mapping on 401kplans.com, then I can track when a trade is going to be coming in with what advisor and what wholesaler. And if you want to download that information, easily share it with your wholesaler, that's your partner out there, then we can help them track some upcoming trades after you're done with your picking your fund lineup. So additional transparency, information, data, we're just trying to monetize the data as well. We also did, north of 5,000 proposals over the last year. So we have a lot of competitive pricing data. So we're partnering with record keepers. Obviously, we're never disclosing a competitor's specific information, but we can help them get more competitive. We can see how, where they're most competitive, where they're not, where they should focus. And I think we could add a lot of value to the record keepers out there to make sure they're competitively priced out there in the marketplace, regardless of plan size and average account balance.
Yeah, that's so valuable. I think the DCIO ability to connect in, it would be so helpful for them, because you're right. They don't sometimes know when trades are happening, and I get reached out to a lot actually from different DCIOs. And it's always a struggle, because we don't use a whole lot of different fund families, but we're constantly doing due diligence. So it's important to know the relationships that they have with different record keepers, so that we can make sure that we're aligned there, so that we don't create more work, because different platforms, obviously different products within platforms have different limitations. And so there's a lot to that problem, I think, for sure.
There's one more cool feature that I'll share with you is, let's say you have a relationship with a DCIO, your local wholesaler from Pioneer. And that Pioneer wholesaler can log into 401kplans.com, and we call it create your 401k network. They identify their top advisor relationships within their territory. Similar to like LinkedIn, you kind of check a box next to their names. If a record keeping wholesaler receives a proposal from you, but maybe doesn't know you, maybe they don't have a relationship with you yet, and they can view that in this case, Pioneer wholesaler does know you. And if maybe you're looking at a Pioneer fund, or they proposed a Pioneer fund for their consideration, they literally can press a button and they can connect with the Pioneer wholesaler to say like, hey, you have a relationship with Jake. I don't know Jake, can we work together on this opportunity? If you picked one of their funds to work on. So it's a way to kind of digitally leverage relationships and connect with each other, based on, so you don't have all these people calling on you, all the wholesalers and all the DCIOs. If the DCIO has a relationship with you and you're going to use one of their funds, we can leverage that relationship and they could partner together in the field.
So you kind of have an internal community in a way, but more just on the who has access into that. Would that just be the providers?
Yeah. So all it basically does is, it's like an interconnected community there, where the DCIO can say, I have a relationship with Jake. He's one of my top advisor relationships out there. So and I'm going to make this up, but like the Mass Mutual wholesaler, if they didn't know you, they can see that their Pioneer local wholesaler does.
Got it. Okay.
So they know that, hey, I don't know Jake, but I just got a proposal from Jake. So maybe I'll contact the Pioneer wholesaler who says Jake's a good relationship. So they could work together and try to get in and form that relationship with you.
I like that. Yeah,
Yeah. And then if
I
you
always
happen to
bring up,
pick the Pioneer fund, that's when he gets the data,
right.
But that, yeah.
Whenever wholesaler comes out, I mean, before COVID, it was a lot more people would come out, but I would drop a lot of names because I know quite a few advisors, and I've spent some time really being more of a friendly advisor, and seeing each other as peers and helping each other rather than just, oh, your competition. Like, I like helping. And so I'll constantly ask my wholesalers who you're seeing next, who you got today. And sometimes they'll share with me, sometimes they won't. And I'm like, do you know this? And so I start to reverse it on them. I say, do you know this one, this one, this one?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And so I'm trying to connect the dots. And I'm glad you're doing that, because I think the more we can connect the specialists and the people that know what they're, only in this to help some of those advisors that just kind of dabble, I think they're
Right.
going to do a better job. They're going to understand things a lot clearer, and overall their plans are going to get better and stronger. And that's a good thing. I mean, you have to hopefully support that industry rather than just try to keep everybody in the dark because you want to be the top clear winner. I don't like that mindset personally, but
Sure.
it's common. I will say that it is common for a lot of advisors to just stay in their own little realm, and that's fine. But I'm of a mind that we can help each other be stronger together. And so I think that you're doing a lot of that as well.
Yeah. And especially with these times, right? Being in a quarantine.
Yeah. Talk about
people
that.
aren't wholesaling.
With COVID, I mean, this has drastically changed the wholesaling process completely, because now you can't have lunch with everybody. I got to the point now I won't even do lunches very often unless it's some wholesaler I really like to spend time with.
Yeah.
I'll have a quick meeting, like, come in, let's get it all out on the table and get it covered. But yeah, what advice do you have for wholesalers listening and advisors, how to connect with them now that they aren't traveling as much and can't really come face to face? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously people are doing Zoom meetings, and I think it's really hard, especially for that newer wholesaler. That experienced wholesaler who's been out in the field for a long time, have established relationships. I'm assuming they're going to get in the lion's share of the business because of those relationships. I mean, how many Zoom calls are you going to do with a brand new wholesaler, maybe of a product you haven't used before? Probably not that often. And what we've seen now is activity starting to pick up again. As you mentioned, we're getting into selling season now. So if people want to do their transitions by year end, we're seeing a lot more activity being generated. And I think one of the benefits of 401kplans.com is without having the wholesaling, without pounding down doors, it's really nice from a provider standpoint to be receiving leads, to be receiving proposals that you can then follow up on. So that digital distribution is certainly benefiting wholesalers, given everything that we're doing right now, as traditional wholesaling is basically non-existent right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to be creative. That's what I keep telling advisors that I'm coaching and different wholesalers I talk to, is you have to get creative in a way that you're actually helping, and it's not going to be a free lunch anymore. So what are you going to do to get advisors' attention? And to me, you have to genuinely care. Like, if that is the one piece of advice I could give a wholesaler, is genuinely care about this advisor trying to succeed. If they succeed, you're going to succeed. And that doesn't mean that you're going to win every plan, that are going to use you exclusively. Like, that's an unrealistic goal you should not set. But if you do enough good for them, they're going to almost be guilted into feeling like they got to get some plans to you.
Absolutely.
I've been there. I've felt that, and I still feel that. So connecting with the more advisors, this is another way to do that. And I think you're only going to grow. 401k plans is only going to get bigger, your system, because we are all busy, and essentially you're selling back time. I mean, to me, that's so important. We have a limited amount of time each day. And one thing you do is you free up some time to do more other important things rather than spend time on a spreadsheet trying to manipulate numbers and double check things and make sure your assistant or whoever put the numbers in was right. I mean, there's so many time wasters in the proposal process that you eliminate that I'm super excited about. So congrats to what you've done. Do you have partners involved, or is this just solo you, or do you have venture capital involved here? How are you doing this? Tell me a little bit about that. You can obviously keep private what you need to, but
Yeah, no. I mean, we work with we have one venture capital investor and a couple individual investors, and our main investor is NFP Ventures.
okay.
NFP is the parent company of RPAG,
Okay.
and we have a strategic relationship with RPAG as well, which has just been absolutely phenomenal. And this product, when you look at some of the other RFP tools that are out there, if it's RFP Director and the B3 tool that RPAG has, those are all RFP type tools. They're phenomenal. They're great for that mid to large market plan. But in this industry, there was really nothing for that smaller plan that was
Yeah.
out there, where you don't need a 100-page report. You want to get things right away. You want to get it digital and maybe a 20 or 25-page report. So we've been able to partner with RPAG. It's been a phenomenal relationship, and we're on their portal as well. It's been great to get access with some of those specialist advisors that work for RPAG.
Yeah, that's a great relationship there then. Good job with
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so last thing I want to bring up, unless you have other things, is the news today. I mean, we're
Yeah.
seeing acquisitions happen. Empower's buying Mass Mutual's retirement business. Empower's been on a big spending spree lately. I'm kind of shocked. It's really incredible to watch. I feel like there's going to be a lot more too. As I
Yeah.
look around the different record keepers, you spend a lot more time connecting with more than I know. But I dabbled in the small space and set up my own record keeper for a while. And so we talked about that. And I think people that are listening to this know that too. But do you think that'll continue? Do you think acquisitions, I mean, are we going to keep consolidating? I mean, what are your thoughts on that whole, what's happening?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely going to continue. I mean, record keeping is a low margin business. So
Yeah.
you either need scale, and Empower is a phenomenal company. So they're acquiring a tremendous amount of participants and assets and certainly talent. And I am biased, about Mass Mutual. So that's going to be a great fit. But I think record keepers, they're going to have to figure out a way to make money. Is it proprietary asset capture? Is it stable value? Is it cross-selling other voluntary benefits? What can you do with that data where you could try to monetize the participant or monetize the plan sponsor relationships or monetize the advisor relationships that you have? So I mean, you can sell more product into your book, you can sell other products, or you can grow and try to increase scale, which hopefully brings down your per unit cost, so that increases your margin. I mean, it's not brain surgery, but I think that it's people are finding ways to try to make money with the market volatility that we just had, with sales numbers being down for wholesalers. I mean, in a huge way. How do you retain your wholesalers without any not much sales happening this year? So there's a lot of issues, I'd say, going on in our industry, and that's kind of a long-winded way of saying that I do think consolidation will continue in this industry, but people got to find a way to make money.
Yeah. And as the thought I had when I got the alert this morning from actually one of my other wholesalers, while I was at the gym, I was thinking, who won in this this arrangement, right? Is Empower? I mean, obviously Mass Mutual, I think it's decent timing for them to get out because record keeping is getting compressed, but Empower's on a roll. They got a lot of momentum. They have a lot of growth happening. Their scale there, but it causes a lot of uncertainty. I mean, that's going to lead to more conversations with all those plans that Mass Mutual has with this acquisition. I just went through a plan that was with Wells Fargo, got acquired to Principal. We ended up moving it away. So it's going to cause a lot of more shifting around with those plans. I think people are going to evaluate that, and it creates opportunity for everybody involved. But it goes back to the whole mindset of what you said in the beginning is 401ks still need to be sold. Like I don't think we're ever gonna get to a point where it's literally no wholesaling, nothing. It's like go online, Google it, pick your plan, and like no human is involved. I don't think that'll ever happen. I mean, maybe sometime, but to be more valuable as a wholesaler, you got to think outside the box, because now you've got so much consolidation that you might be working for someone else tomorrow. You just don't even know. Like, so how are you going to be valuable to that new employer, or are you going to switch, and why would that switch make sense for that new firm, that new record keeper, wherever you're going? How do you, in your career, personal sense as a wholesaler, continue? And that's what I think a lot of wholesalers need to have a little heart to heart with themselves, to think about the career path of a wholesaler is not just hitting all their metrics. It's genuinely caring about the network that they're creating. And that's valuable. I don't know. Your thoughts there on what career advice for wholesalers in this known thing?
What I would say is, as someone who's been through a couple acquisitions, so Putnam was acquired by Great West, and which became Empower, and then obviously I was at MassMutual when we acquired the Hartford. My advice to a wholesaler, and by the way, I've probably gotten 5 phone calls already this morning, from people that used to work for me, and I would just say, listen, don't overreact. And people obviously get nervous, and it's their career. But you're probably being acquired by a pretty darn good firm. There could be some economic incentive to be patient, and to, see how that all works out for you. And I look back to when we acquired the Hartford, there was some very talented wholesalers who left. And in hindsight, a few of them later on that I formed relationships with said, I wish I never left. So I would just say is be patient. This is your career. These are good firms. Hear out what management has to say and what it's going to be like. And it's the same thing for clients too. If a client was on the edge and they weren't that happy, or the advisor wasn't happy with the service, something like this could cause that proposal, right? Could cause business to move. But if you're happy, you're going to a good firm, transitioning big books of business from one record keeper to the other. And a lot of times they maintain the same record keeping system. I don't think it's as big of a deal as it used to be, so I always I preach patience, in those firms that are going through an acquisition that do a good job of communicating, they're going to retain clients. They're going to retain wholesalers as well. But there's so much change in our industry. It happens all the time. I don't think it necessarily means you got to leave your employer, or you got to change record keepers. Just, I preach patience.
Be patient, focus on the big picture. I would totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a lot more coming down. It's just going to happen. People are going to keep getting acquired because this business is sticky. I mean, that's the way that I look at it is, I've got another good friend close to me here in my neighborhood that is in this business as well. And he's acquiring small CPA firms. It's been fascinating to hear how he's growing. We have not done that. And so it's interesting how the retirement business, because plans don't really, it's not an easy transition. So they stick around, right? So if you do a good job and at least show up and answer the phone, they're going to continue paying, and you're going to continue to have opportunities there. And that's, I think, the reason Empower bought MassMutual. That business is going to probably have a pretty high retention rate.
Right. And you're acquiring some talent too. There's a lot of great, smart people there as well.
Yeah. I've been in MassMutual's office. I did a tour there a few years ago, and it was really amazing. Hugh O'Toole was still there. It was really a great experience, and I was very impressed. And so, I think it was a big win for Empower, but also probably not a bad thing for MassMutual. I just think it'll be interesting to see how they handle the transition.
Yeah.
Because Mass did have kind of 2 product levels, and they were always showing me the new technology, but it had to be a certain size plan. And so I was always like, well, why don't you just give it to everybody? That was always my beef, was like, if you went through the spend to develop something, give it to everybody.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Empower has done on their side, right? They built one platform and everybody's on that essentially. Even though it still needs a lot of work in certain areas, especially on our side, on the advisor side and the plan sponsor side. But I think the end participant's pretty good.
Yes.
So, this industry is a wild ride. It's never going to stop. And it's,
right.
You've seen so much change in your career. I mean, you've almost been in it not quite as long as 401ks have been around, but you've seen a lot, and you could probably write quite the book about all the different platforms you've seen and ways plans have been run. And I'm just glad you're still part of it, that you're still helping us. I can't wait to hopefully I have 4 boys and a girl, and I hope one of them will kind of follow my path, and they know a lot about 401ks. So I'm excited about the future with them. I even got my assistant or operations manager. She's having a baby, and I had these things made for her.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
I'm all in, right? I love this
Yes.
industry, and the reason is the ultimate why is we're helping individual families
Right.
solve the problem of retirement. And the more we can keep that in the back of our minds, the better we're gonna all do. And that's
couldn't
more
agree
than
more.
a pay could ever do, right? So
That's right.
I
That's
love
right.
it. Thanks,
Yeah.
Scott. I think you're a definite leader, thought leader in our industry, and I want to hear more from you. I want to see you out. I want to see where you go. I'm going to definitely dig more deeper into using 401k plans for our book of business
Great.
and our prospecting. So I appreciate all that you're doing. If anyone wants to get a hold of Scott, 401kplans.com, I would highly recommend checking it out and connect with him on LinkedIn as well. And thank you so much for your time, Scott. Anything to add?
No, just thanks for having me. I appreciate all you're doing out there. I really do. And it's always exciting times in our ever-changing industry. And it's always fun. And as you said, when you can make a living doing something that you love and you're helping other people, we're all very lucky to be in this spot. So thanks for what you're doing, helping educate other advisors out there and bringing attention to issues in our industry. So congratulations on everything you're doing too.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. We'll
Take
have
care.
a great Tuesday, and we'll chat again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks.